It took about 2.5 months, I think, worth of videos, 6 days a week. At one point, we're doing 7 days a week on the NRFI, the no-run first inning on the diamond for the boss to come out. Now, he's out here looking for this thing. And a bunch of other TS reports and nonsense. It's what happens when you go 1-5 and you have a rough week to start things off in the NBA. The one that we hit, amazingly, was Kyrie Irving 5+ threes. So we made back nearly all of what we bet, which is kind of how things have gone so far in this particular video. Hopefully, though, the last time we did the 5-5 in the NFL, 4 for 5. So things are working overall. It's just, for whatever reason, this has been a struggle. Look, we appreciate you rolling with us here. A little appetizer, a little wet your beak, if you will. Take the Flyers on the road to win in Nashville. You can do this, too. You can take that $10 below that link that you're going to sign up with at BetMGM, deposit $10, and from there, just bet the Flyers to win this game. Put $10 on the Flyers to win this game. You're going to win $200 as soon as either team scores a goal. It's insane, right? I'll tell you a little more about that by all means. But you know the drill here, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the segment that everybody's talking about. Let us begin. Go ahead. Start the clock. 5 bets, 5 minutes. We begin in the NBA, of course, in Philadelphia. How about that? Now, this is a Joel Embiid game. See, I told you last time, I lied to you last time, and that was my fault. I apologize that the game against the Milwaukee Bucks, we'll get to them, that was the Joel Embiid game. Following their loss to the Boston Celtics, the home opener, et cetera, and then what happens? Joel Embiid essentially quits. He's a soulless vessel walking up and down the floor in the second half, far from what we've seen an MVP candidate. Now, you better believe this man bounces back. A couple of things. Brett Brown is back in the house. Not that there's any type of revenge or avenge mode happening here, but I think Embiid does show up for the crowd. He shows for Brown. He shows for the squad, and there is a huge narrative working against him so far for the first time in Joel Embiid's career since he's started to bud as a superstar. So that's a problem that I do believe Embiid addresses. The easiest thing he's going to do to this Spurs team is just clobber them. We move on. I mentioned the Bucks. They're taking on the Rockets. This is a track meet to be right here. All right. Expect it, especially since the Rockets come off another up and down game where they're just giving up so much, especially early on in these games. So we just look at, again, Houston losing. They give up a $129 to the Grizz, but they're scoring 122 as well. So this is just so up and down for Houston. I think it catches up to them against a team in Milwaukee. Took the night off, and they come back here rested following that big win against the Sixers. You know it's going over 231.5, so you might as well take the Bucks on the spread. Look, if you want to go money line total, that's another opportunity here, but I don't hate it. Bucks and then over 231 at +10, 110, pardon me. But for me, I'm going to go lay the 12.5. That's the better bet for me. All right, number 3. This one didn't make a lot of sense on the NBA video that we did heading in for every game on the slate, which you can find also on the Odd Shopper channel. And it still doesn't under 9. And I said that. Look, -7.5 is where we got in with Denver. Another injury yet again for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yet still, Denver, they lose to the Jazz. I get that. Not that they lost to the Jazz, but I get that the line wouldn't be inflated here as a result of that. But still, Murray, Porter, like everybody's healthy, and Jokic is fine, yet they were laying 7.5 at home. This has since moved to 8.5. I still think this is okay. 9.5, I would take a pause because that's probably where that true line should rest, 9.5, 10 points. But you know, with the benefit of hindsight, this sucker opened up at 7.5. Still, smash away here. Yes, the Nuggets are probably in blowout mode, maybe disinterest mode, but you can take advantage of this still below 9. Let's move to the Clippers-Kings game. We know this. Kawhi Leonard is out. John Wall is out. If you were part of the Premium Insider app,
morning, everyone, and welcome into Live Before Locks. You're here to get ready for UFC 280, which kicks off in 1 hour from now from Abu Dhabi. We are sponsored by PrizePicks. Appreciate everyone tuning in here on a Saturday morning as we got a little morning MMA, afternoon MMA this afternoon, pay-per-view card, great fight card we got lined up here. Of course, we're going to break this one down for you. Answer any questions that you have here on the Stokastic MMA Live Before Locks show. Of course, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. Of course, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you got to do that. Hit that notification bell so you know when a new show is live here on the channel. Of course, coming up after us will be the NBA strategy show. As I'll tell you about one of our guys here at Stokastic taking down some GPPs last night a little bit later on in the show. Good morning, Pete. How you doing, bro?
I feel like Robin Williams and Jumanji. What year is it right now? I don't know what's going on, but I'm a little tired. Happy to be here, though, because we got a nice fight card. Daytime MMA is usually my darling. Not ideal circumstances, but it's a good card. So I'm going to suck it up and break it down, help you guys out, and hopefully we make some money.
So I want to start off with a question we actually got last night over our Discord channel from Iron Mike saying, are y'all stacking? Are you allowing stacks for the main and co-main event? If I do allow it, I always set a rule to take 10% off of the opponent projections. If I have the other, will y'all like doing that or not allowing any fight stacks?
It's a good question.
I would not stack the main event just because of how I think the fight likely goes. Co-main event, I don't mind if you want to go stacking the co-main event.
Yeah, so I accounted for stacking in some of my lineup construction, and the only fight that I checked off for stacking was the co-main event. I just don't see the main event being a stackable fight given the volatility surrounding Oliveira and his losses, and how I foresee this going. If it goes late, I'm expecting an Islam Makhachev wall install, top position on the mat, minimizing the points that Oliveira can gain. We have seen times where fights like the Glover Teixeira, Yuri Prochazka, broke the slate. And if you stack that bout, it completely broke the slate because that was a ridiculous performance. So I have to tell you, lighter weight class, I'm going to be targeting the co-main event as my only stack on the card. If you want to get a little bit different and stack the main event, go ahead. Stranger things have happened, but I'm not going to do so.
Sam, I appreciate your super chat. Michael, I appreciate your super chat, man. He says, who are your two most confident underdogs? I currently have 4 underdogs in my lineup. Michael, I will tell you, that was one of the things when I was hand building lineups for, multiplier contests, cash games, I was really looking at that under 8,000. And there's a lot of guys and a lot of fighters that really stuck out to me. Obviously, looking at both the underdogs in the main event, co-main event of Charles and TJ, Beneil Dariush is another underdog that sticks out to me. Cash games, I did find myself going the Sean O'Malley route, just thinking that he can, rack up some points even in a 3-round decision. But looking at some other underdogs that stick out to me, don't necessarily love going this, but I just think it's a fight that's likely going to end via finish. I would be looking at that light heavyweight matchup between Volkan Ozdemir and Nikita Krylov.
Okay, yeah, I don't hate that. And let me tell you guys that on the ride home, when I'm trying to keep my eyes, my eyes open, I had a vision. Now, I don't know if it was due to me and being absolutely exhausted, but it led to me going home, crunching some lineups and getting to some more AJ Dobson. So I actually think that AJ Dobson at 7,100 has some of the best round one upside on the entire slate. I actually think he might have some sneaky takedown upside, not known for his takedowns, usually just a guy that wants to keep it on the feet. But Armin Petrosyan's takedown defense is absolutely horrible. Jason Floyd landing double legs, single legs, whatever type of takedown he wants against Armin Petrosyan. So I actually think that AJ Dobson can mix it up, especially with all the work he's been doing with Matt Brown. Not only that, he can knock out Armin Petrosyan. We've seen Petrosyan get knocked out on the regional scene. I just watched it again, and I'm like, yeah, that's a combination that AJ Dobson can replicate. I don't trust either one of these fighters, and that's usually the type of fights that you want to target for your long shots. So give me AJ Dobson for some more exposure.
CS hopping in with the super chat. He goes, I was thinking of fading 2 to 3 fighters completely Due to me, you want split exposure to a lot of fights and still need some leverage spots. Who are 2 to 3 fights you would X out of your lineup, out of your field if you were doing this?
CS, thank you for so much for the support. Great question, by the way.
There's one fight that jumps out to me right from the start. And we talked about this fight on the strategy show. I love the fight from a fight aspect. I just don't love it from a fancy aspect. And
Feels
that
like
is
a trap.
Sean Brady, Bill Muhammad. I keep thinking, like, it's a great fight. But we're looking at from, I need 100 points. I just don't think the winner in that fight's getting 100. I don't know if the winner of that fight gets 80.
Yeah, it feels like a trap, though. And I think that it's a little bit tricky because the general consensus would probably be that this fight is not the best for DFS. But if I'm going to favor a side, like I actually think that Sean Brady has the finishing ability, whereas Bilal Muhammad has the dominance. And I don't foresee Bilal Muhammad dominating Sean Brady. So it's a fight that I'm a little bit lighter on, and I'm a little nervous just because of the price point and how skilled they are. I'm hoping that it's a competitive fight and it goes 15, so my exposure doesn't kill me. That's probably the cop-out answer that I would say is that's a fight, one of the 3 fights that CS is looking for. As far as like which other fights to avoid or cross off, it's a little dangerous to do so, but I understand why he's doing it, to get as many combinations as possible. I might go with the Manon Fiorot and Caitlin Chukagian. It doesn't make me feel too confident avoiding it, just because if Manon Fiorot or Caitlin Chukagian really have a takedown heavy game plan, we could see elevated totals. I think the probability of them going the takedown well is less than what we have seen in some other matchups. I think that they're going to be able to defend takedowns. And this is probably going to just be a kickboxing matchup on the feet, high volume, lots of kias. And it could be the second fight that I would avoid. Trying to find that third fight's a little bit difficult, I have to tell you. And it might be Abubakar Nurmagomedov, Ghazi Umargadzhiev. I'm not sure if 3 would be the number to cross off. If anything, I would cross off 2.
So CS mentioned, he said fighters, not fights.
Oh, okay, good.
So, I mean, look, I never want to get in the Caitlin Chukagian DFS business. She's not that volume. She's not going to, you expect to land knockdowns, takedowns, whatnot. Like overall, like that's a fight that I like Manon Fiorot to win that matchup, but from a DFS aspect, and once again, talking about wanting to get, 100 plus points, I just don't know if that's the fight I want to get to. Now, looking at other fighters that I would cross off, look, it would be easy to say Malcolm Gordon, but he's the lowest salary guy on this card. I did not find myself getting to much of the Carol Hossa and Leon Landsberg fight. Other ones that I would say that I would Murdoch is a guy that I'm not really getting to either. That's one guy. I mean, you painted a picture for him. Outside of that, like, there's no one that really sticks out to me, says I really don't want to get there.
Yeah. So to kind of go back to CS's question, now that he mentioned that he meant fighters, Malcolm Gordon's a guy I have 0 of today. So if he wins, okay, because I just don't trust in his skill set. I don't trust in his durability. If the chalk fails and Muhammad Makhachev loses, anybody who plays Malcolm Gordon is going to shoot up the rankings like crazy. I do not foresee that happening. Out of 100 times, how many times does he beat Muhammad Makhachev? I say single digits. Yeah. So perhaps compare that to the ownership. I will say that Makhmud Muradov is another fighter, as you mentioned, that I'm pretty light on, just because of the grappling deficiencies I saw in his bout against Gerald Meerschaert. Now, I'm not taking into account development. I'm sure that he's gone back to the gym, refined some things, look to improve his takedown defense, especially his submission defense. But as far as like styles makes fights, I really like Kyle Bahayo a lot. And I think that this is a very difficult matchup to test your development, so give me Kyle Bahayo, and I'm going to be a little bit light on Makhmud Muradov despite how I used to think that he was a prospect.
Another super chat coming in. This one's from Sam talking best DK captain. So I just pulled up the captain contest, and there is someone that looks to me like if you wanted to save some money in terms of the captain, is it crazy for me to say TJ Dillashaw at 9,300?
No, not at all. I mean, so I view the captain similar to how I view showdowns. I make showdown lineups with my highest projected players for the slate and what I foresee how they're going to score, and I put them in the captain spot. But it's also nice when you find a very, very cheap fighter or player to put them in the captain spot, which allows you to get to 5 other studs or just complete a disgusting lineup with all the top talent. I did it the other day with the backup running back for Arizona, and I was able to get everybody in the showdown contest. So like, you're probably not going to take down first, but it's going to get you in the money, and you're going to be creeping up the more and more that it happens. So I like the 5-round nature, especially in the captain spot. So I would be in agreement with you. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, I mean, if you put TJ Dillashaw your captain, that gives you an average remaining per player of 81.40. So, like you just say, you can get to anybody else. But like, look, if you were looking to get to some of the high end options, looking at someone like Islam Makhachev at 11,700 is someone that sticks out to me. Looking at other ones that I would feel really confident in. Barallo, who you mentioned, 13,800, but he's the second most expensive. I don't know if I want to get to a Jan at 14.4. If that was a 5-round fight, I think my mindset would be different.
Say that again. I'm sorry. I missed that.
Peter Yan, 14,400 DK captain. If that was a 5-round fight, I think my thought process would be different. But it being a 3-round fight, I necessarily don't want to get there.
Yeah, agreed. And that's kind of where like I'm getting to Peter Yan today, because I just think stylistically it's a tough matchup for Sean O'Malley. If Peter Yan closes the gap, high shelling defense, starts to chop away at the legs, in tight combinations, en route to sweeps, takedowns, or just Tyson-like combinations on the inside, at range, he's going to get picked apart and lit up like a Christmas tree. So he has to be very, very careful, because Sean O'Malley's going to be winning until he gets hit with a big shot, or until round 2 and round 3 when Peter Yan starts to make some adjustments. So the 3-round nature of what's, kind of not steering me away from the hefty price tag, but it's like, I'd rather go to Muhammad Makhachev, because we know he has tons of takedown upside, and it's a soft matchup. So that kind of can piggyback on what Noah Levinson's saying in the super chat. Thank you so much for the super chat, $4.99. With all the good underdogs, does this make you increase your exposure to Makhachev on DraftKings? I don't know if it's because I'm tired and like so many closely contested bouts. I know it's a hefty price tag. I'm going 100% Makhachev today, and that's just me.
I got to Makhachev in cash games and multiplier contests just because of how much I love him, and the fact of, I mentioned about Thursday when we were talking about the PrizePicks, where, and I mentioned about this on PrizePicks all the time, is when you like a number earlier in the week, you got to jump on it. And I got that fight time number at 7.5. It's now 6.5.
Yeah,
so,
good job.
I mean, the other, and we'll talk more about PrizePicks here in a little bit, but that was the rest of the numbers really haven't moved at all over at PrizePicks, but that was the one that I think everyone saw and said, hey, let's jump all over that one. But the thing with Makhachev in terms of GPPs, it's just a roster construction aspect for me of sitting there and saying, okay, we know the ownership's going to be high on him. We know good chance that he's, in a victory, he's probably scoring 100 plus points. Maybe he's
needs to.
Obviously at that price point, but like if you tell me, I think 115, 120 is a likely scenario, especially in a first round finish for him. But it's just, to me, it just becomes a roster construction situation.
Yeah. So I kind of want to dive into this just a little bit, because it's all dependent on how you view GPPs and how you play. You could be fading him and praying and sitting on the edge of your seat in hopes that he doesn't get above 120 points. You know, if he gets above 120 points, it's tough for a lot of other fighters to get there, right? So I play a little bit differently. When I nail the picks, I win big. When I don't, I'm going to sink to the bottom. That's just how it is. And what that does is I have a more centralized focus on my exposure. And when it comes to Muhammad Makhachev, even if he only gets me 100, right? Now I still at least have 150 live lines rather than taking some shots and now only having 20% of my lines still being live. So that's kind of like what you view, and whether it's all about your risk tolerance as well. And it's a safe play by me. It's not like I'm taking a bold stance on somebody in mid-8, low 7s or whatever, but it just seems like it's too good of a matchup. My one worry is if he just wins too quickly. That's it.
To me, I think it also, when we're talking about GPPs, Pete, I think it also depends on how many lineups you're putting in these big GPPs. Like if you're not 150 maxing and maybe you're putting 5 lineups in, 10 lineups in, I will find myself getting more contrarian in my thought process, saying, okay, who are these underdogs I want to sit there and target? I mean, look, we know there are going to be popular underdogs today. Main event, co-main event underdogs are going to be very popular. But to me, it's about going out there and finding some other ones. Like I look at someone like a Beneil Dariush as a low-owned underdog in this spot. Like to me, he's a guy that I want to get to. And of course, if you want to get access to our ownership projections, we have got a great deal for you going on right now, as you can get 10 days of Stokastic Platinum for just $10. Yep, you heard that right. $10 for 10 days of Stokastic Platinum. That's 80% off our normal Platinum pricing, and it also gives you access to our lineup generator. Just got to use that promo code Hardwood at checkout. Click the link in the video description to sign up there. $10 for 10 days of Stokastic Platinum. And of course, that top fire tool is a tool that I'm looking at. Literally, I have it printed up right here in front of me, and I'm looking at that top fire tool. You got to take advantage of that offer. Gives you everything we got over there at Stokastic.com. A tremendous value right now. Of course, NBA going on every night of the week. Steve Buzz are just killing the GPPs last night. Of course, we got MMA here today. You got NFL this weekend, college football. Matt and Ben, they do a great job with our college football projections. So you got to check out that great deal we have for you right now over at Stokastic.com. But like looking at some other low options, Volkan Ozdemir, I think just because of how that fight could potentially go, that is one that I looked at. You mentioned about AJ Dobson. No thank you on Kayla Chikagian. I don't want to get to Landsberg. Don't want to get to Gordon. Godzi is an interesting one, though.
Yeah, so I think that Omar Gadzhiev is one of the most interesting underdogs coming down the welterweight, going up against a guy I've never been a big fan of in Abubakar Nurmagomedov. And it was only back in April when people were picking Omar Gadzhiev to beat Kyle Bahayo. And now we are in October, and now everybody's understanding what the ceiling is for Kyle. And I have to tell you that Omar Gadzhiev, based on his strong wrestling, very, very good in top position. He has probably the better striking of the two, even if it's low volume. I like him to win here. And I can kind of see Abubakar Nurmagomedov getting put in a bad situation or a bad position. In the high 8 range, Abubakar might be the guy I'm one of the lightest on. Like he went 1 of 5 in the takedown department against Jared Gooden, 1 of 1 in his debut against David Zavada, and was soon after submitted. So like David Zavada was okay, had an active guard, but Abubakar Nurmagomedov's last name is always going to potentially boost his ownership. And I'm not really sold on him. He looked improved last time out, but I actually think that Omar Gadzhiev could pose some big problems for him here. So I like Godzi. I really do at 7,500.
Mention Sam, appreciate you with the super chat. He goes, thoughts on his DK captain lineup: TJ Dillashaw captain, Gamrot, Krylov, Muhammad, Oliveira, and Jan. If you don't like someone, who and switch with who. So I just pulled that lineup up. So it gives you $300 left. So if you did want to change anything, the only one that
Take out Muhammad and take out Jan and see what happens.
So if you take out those two, that would give you 84.50 left. Like, I would look at in that point. So you've already got the main event and co-main event. I really don't love the Brady Muhammad just from a fantasy score aspect. You are kind of limited in what you can do.
Yeah.
Depending on how low you want to go here.
Let me pull this thing up.
Maybe if you go, it's kind of tough because you're taking some shots at that point. The Gamrot, I just wonder, can he finish Dariush?
I think he can. We've seen Dariush get his back taken despite being a phenomenal jiu-jitsu competitor. And like, we've seen him get out grappled, out wrestled, out struck. I'm finding it a little bit difficult to see clear paths for Beneil Dariush other than getting in a dogfight and hurting Mateusz Gamrot. So like, I'm a little bit more so on the Gamrot side and then the Dariush side. But as far as like skill wise, pound for pound down there at the dumpster at, looking at all these options in the 7K range, like, he's one of the highest ranked fighters out there. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason.
Let me ask you about Carol Hossa. 9,200 over on DraftKings. She's getting a decent amount of ownership. Do you want to get there?
Let me see my exposure right now. She over 20%.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I'm nowhere near that. I am nowhere near that. I am. The only reason, right, is we saw what happens if she gets taken down, and she's not the same fighter. On the feet, she throws a tremendous amount of volume. When she's able to land takedowns like she did against Jocelyn Edwards, she scored 108 points. Against Vanessa Mello, she scored 109, and Laura Procopio 111. So she could do it. I just still think on a week like this, if it's 105, if it's under 110 at 9,200, completely slate dependent in the way that I see some of these fights going. I feel like it's not going to be enough. I'm getting to about 15%. Makes me a little nervous whenever I'm a little light on some 9,000 options, but I think that her opponent, Lena Landsberg, could actually put together a similar game plan that Sarah McMahon did and just try to win a round or two, which can result in a lower fantasy production from Carol Hossa.
We appreciate everyone in here on an early Saturday morning checking out Live for Lock. If you do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button. Love to get those over 125 before we get out of here. And of course, NBA Strategy Show will be coming up after us. Now, I mentioned about our top fighter tool, and one of the things that I love to look at is comparing ownership to top 6 percentage. And there's one fighter that there is a discrepancy that between the two, and that is Sean O'Malley. So Sean O'Malley, we got at 22% ownership, but he's only got a 10% chance of being in that top 6. The question is, while the price, the salary is very low, in a 3-round decision, is Sean O'Malley optimal if he doesn't land knockdowns?
Oh yeah. 100%. He throws ridiculous volume. So
or do we not see that volume because of now? This is massive step up in competition for him. Massive.
I'm going to tell you right now, as a coach, as a fighter, if he does not throw out volume and he does not throw broomstick jabs and straight punches and straight attacks at Peter Yan is going to walk him down like he's a schoolyard bully, and he's going to beat him up, and it's not going to be competitive. Sean's only path in this fight is to stay on the outside, utilize tremendous footwork, long rangy striking en route to high volume, similar to what he did against Chris Moutinho. Guess what, though? It's not Chris Moutinho, and this is Peter Yan. Like, Chris Moutinho did a damn good job in that fight of just constantly being in his face, closing the distance. And Peter Yan could do the same exact thing, except he's much more dangerous. So, I'm getting to Sugar Sean O'Malley. because there is a part in my brain where I'm like, he has the offensive skills to win 2 rounds. I don't see him necessarily knocking down Peter Yan. He has picked up knockdowns against Eddie Wineland, Thomas Almeida knocked him down twice, Chris Moutinho, and Holly and Paiva. It's possible, but if he's going to go tit for tat with Peter Yan, that is a recipe for a disaster.
And Sam mentioned about replying on a super chat. He says, if I take out Muhammad and Yan, I don't know who to replace him with. What if you sat there and said you put in Sean O'Malley in your lineup and just say, you know what, I think O'Malley survives for 3 rounds, maybe lose a decision, but he can give me some points. Then that literally lets you get to anyone you want to.
Yeah. I mean, there is a type of cash strategy to these showdowns where it's just like view their ceiling in a loss. Who has the highest ceiling in a loss? And I would probably say that the 4,800 is ridiculous. I mean, he could get murked in 1 round and not reach anything, but like from what we've seen from Sean O'Malley, he's wise enough defensively to survive, hopefully avoid some leg kicks and not have, another case of drop foot. So I'm excited for that fight extremely because I want to see if what the hype's about. Like I know Sugar Sean O'Malley's disgusting, but this is a massive step up competition.
Yeah, when you talk about who he's fought in the UFC and now where he's at, I will say this. I think the biggest Peter Yan fan today is Chito Vera.
Yeah, I mean, right? Like,
because they've already Dana. Now look, take Dana's word with a grain of salt, but he's already come out and said the winner of this fight's getting a title matchup. If you're Chito Vera, you keep, if Sean O'Malley wins this fight, you put your hands up in the air and go, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, it's a great problem to have for the UFC, right? Like you have all these top talented fighters and nipping at each other's heels. And, the best thing for the UFC would be a Sean O'Malley win. And, we will have to see because that would truly boost him into superstardom. And he's already on his way. He's a pretty big star as it is. So I can't imagine what a win, especially a high profile win over Peter Yan would be like.
Oh no, man. Yeah, it would. Star power all the way there. Of course, we are sponsored by PrizePicks. They have their daily prop based contests. You got 5-player lineups that can net you up to 10 times your entry fee. Click the link in the description below to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum and up to $100 deposit match bonus when you sign up and make a deposit with PrizePicks. And on Thursday's strategy show, Pete, I talked about some of the PrizePicks plays that I did like. I mentioned about that Muhammad Makhachev on Thursday. That fight time was 7.5 minutes. It's now at 6.5 minutes. I still like the under there, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's going to get rid of Malcolm Gordon pretty easily. It's a matter of if he wants to play with his food or not. So, like ragdolling him en route to a TKO or submission could happen. And I'm hoping it happens early enough that we get a ton of points.
I still do like the under 10 minutes on Nikita Krylov on Fight Time. I think that fight's over within 2. Looking over the significant strikes category, I mentioned about Minot Fiorot. Her number has not changed. It's still 77.5. I think she's going to hit that number because I think that's going to be a 15-minute kickboxing matchup. Yeah,
I'm with you, man. You are a sharp when it comes to the PrizePicks.
Yeah, I mean, literally last time sitting here in the office, just watching NBA games, trying to see if PrizePicks had a little promo yesterday that they did 15x. So I was over here, making some money. Now the takedowns, I know me and you are not on the same page over here. I know we're not on the same page. Peter Yan, 2 takedowns. I still like the over there, Pete.
I mean, that would be the easiest path to victory for Peter Yan, but he's not a wrestler. But he can land takedowns, and most of his takedowns are from trips and sweeps and in tight range. So it's possible. If the issue is, does he need more than one? Like if it gets Sean down there, he has such ridiculous ground and pound that it could be a violent finish. Just think of how the sequence of the Jose Aldo finish, and that was tough to watch.
All right, let's see if you're still against me on this one.
All right, let's hear it.
Aljamain Sterling, 2 takedowns. I'm going under, man. I'm going under.
No, you can't. You only think he lands 1?
I think TJ will keep the outside Dominic Cruz. No one has landed 3 takedowns on him.
I actually think that there might be a strength disparity between these guys. Like, I feel like Aljo is so strong, so strong. Like, we shall see. I mean, the skills of TJ Dillashaw and the lifelong wrestling accolades are going to be on full display. But at one point, strength does come into play, and we just need him to mark it off as a takedown, because I don't know if Aljo will have the best control time outside of backpacking him.
The thing that concerns me about the Aljo camp, and I don't know if this is mental warfare, but they just seem to only want to talk about TJ Dillashaw's previous failed drug test. And that gets me wondering about things.
Yeah. Who knows?
Even though TJ's response in the pre-fight press conference to him, tremendous.
Yeah. I didn't like that you're going to get beat by a cheater. Like, he's a punk, dude. I really hope Aljo just chokes him right the hell out. I will be so happy if that happens. But we got a lot of people in here right now for a very, very early start time for UFC 280. So thank you guys so much for tuning into our show. We truly appreciate it. Almost 450 people in here. If you guys can hit that like button, let's try to get 280 likes. I know it's a really high amount, but it's UFC 280 and this fight card's ridiculous. So hit that like button for us. We really appreciate it.
Like the way you think there, Pete. Sam with the super chat says, who has more points, Borrello, Fioraut, or Sterling?
Who has more points?
Yeah.
Well, I think that Kyle Bahaio has a soft path to victory. So I'm going to say him, but the 5-round nature makes me want to go to Aljo.
Who's going to take down City?
Dobson might take Petrosian to take down City, bro. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, Petrosian might get taken down by a gust of wind, and that gust of wind will be from AJ Dobson. And whether it's on the feet or it is, in tight, I think that AJ Dobson has the skills to pull this off. I don't know if he has the cardio to last outside 2 rounds, but as far as pump plays, he's one of my favorite pump plays on the entire slate.
Looking at the main event, would Charles try to take Islam down and see what Islam can do on his back?
I would love that. Because, like, when I was going back and watching the film, my idea of Islam Makhachev was completely different than what I saw with my own eyes. And I will tell you that when you see fighters putting Islam Makhachev in some bad positions due to just being lazy at times, it was Chris Wade. That was back in 2016. So a very, very long time ago. Very, very long time ago. But the sequence was a head and arm situation where Wade was attempting a guillotine. And I saw some really bad tendencies from Islam Makhachev in that sequence, where immediately I'm thinking to myself, that is a Charles Oliveira finish all day long. Guillotines are my specialty. I'm really good at guillotines. And I could tell you right now that Charles Oliveira would have finished that. Now the development is real. Like, Islam Makhachev has turned into an absolute force within the division. You've seen it against Arman Tsarukyan, Davi Hamosh, but like the Drew Dober win, like that was that wasn't even a Von Flue choke. It was more of just Drew Dober having zero skills on the mat. The Dan Hooker was weird. Like, it's such soft, weird wins. Whereas if you look at Charles Oliveira's resume, it's absolute legitimate contenders where he's had to overcome adversity. So Islam Makhachev better be ready for a war.
Cash core plays. Makhachev would be the core play for me.
Yeah, all day.
And then I'm looking at the low price underdogs. I'm looking at Dariush. I'm also looking at O'Malley, Krylov, just because of Ozmir, because of the GPP upside. And you've mentioned, and look, you've mentioned some great points about AJ Dobson, particularly if he is able to utilize, his background of wrestling.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I want to see how he looks against a striker, and Petrosian fits that, like Malkoun suffocating you from bell to bell. is not the type of stylistic fight that he needs to be taking. He needs to be taking more of these Petrosian fights. And Petrosian, same thing with him. He could go out there and starch AJ Dobson, because now he doesn't really have to worry about the takedown as much as somebody else, like when he was fighting Kyle Bahayo.
Looking over at the FanDuel side of the equation, I'm kind of going through some questions that came in a little bit earlier, asking about favorite FanDuel MVP. So the popular MVPs, we all know who they're going to be. Makhachev, the most expensive guy over on FanDuel. Islam, Sterling. The Carol Hosa, I don't necessarily want to get there. I mentioned about Dillashaw. I think maybe targeting that co-main event as your captain play in FanDuel is a smart way to go about it, just because the likelihood is probably going to go 5 rounds. But, looking at some other ones over there that would stick out to me, Krylov, just because of first round upside, Charles, first round upside as well. But I think the safe play would be Makhachev, but he is going to be chalky.
Yeah, he is. But sometimes it's okay to pay for the chalk. When the chalk fails, it's terrible. But, on a day like today, I do think that Makhachev is in a fantastic matchup that is a little too tough to ignore. I mean, his odds have already inflated to almost minus 1,500 right now. And he's only priced at 9,600. And then on FanDuel, he's a little rich still, but I mean, it still seems like a little too cheap.
Marcos, he says, you guys don't think Makhachev can make this a striking match knowing he has the grappling advantage? Any chance that could be his game plan? Now, we have seen in, the history of MMA, I think the most notable example of this is when Khabib Nurmagomedov took on Al Iaquinta. He banked the first 3 rounds, and then he used the last 2 rounds as essentially a sparring match to work on his striking.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that's a good point. But like Islam Makhachev has not had that time or that matchup to work on his striking. And, I think defensively he's sound, and he's very, very basic, and basic is great. But I still don't think he's comfortable on the feet. Clearly he's not comfortable. And like even Khabib was able to just utilize a good jab at times. And that was mainly his go-to on the feet. The longer this fight stays on the feet, the more Charles Oliveira has the advantage, more tools, excellent Muay Thai, susceptible chin, but it has clearly an edge on the feet.
Of course, if you got any questions, you can hit those up right here in the YouTube chat. You can also hit those in our Discord channel. And of course, be sure to take advantage of that offer we got going on for you right now. 10 days of Stokastic Platinum for just $10. Take advantage of that right now. And I mentioned about last night. Well, Pete, last night was a great night to be Steve Buzzard. That's all I'm saying.
Damn, Steve.
I mean, Steve, just brush shoulders up, bro. Like, I mean, look, I'm just telling you, if I was Steve Buzzard last night, I'm partying. I'm partying hard, because if you have not seen, Steve took down not 1, not 2, but 3 GPPs for $200K. Way to go, Steve Buzzard. Man, that is an awesome night.
Listen, if you're working, say Steve was working a job, right? And you just realize you hit 3 GPPs. Are you walking off the job? Because I think I might. Like, I'm out. Peace out, dude. Like, 3 GPPs, that's fantastic.
Yeah, man, taking down there at NBA. Of course, we want to see you go in the Stokastic Hall of Fame here this week. Of course, you got to be rocking that Stokastic avatar, your DFS profile. Tweet your wins to @StokasticHOF. You win a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum when you finish in the top 3 with the contest with over 5,000 entries. And looking at that lineup Steve Buzzard had there last night, John Morant getting him nearly 72 points over there on the FanDuel side of the equation. Also, Gordon Hayward over there, and man, just a great lineup over there. He had a much better night than I did. Much better night.
I was so close, but was it DeMar DeRozan? No, it's Ayo Dosunmu, who I had quite a bit of ownership on. He just relatively disappointed, but I had a better night the night before.
Yeah. You got to check out all the guys we have for NBA. Of course, a strategy show coming up here in under 20 minutes from now to get you ready for tonight's NBA. I'm a little disappointed. I'm hopping on a plane here in a couple hours to go to Charlotte. I was hoping the Hornets would be home tonight. They played last night, so I was kind of hoping maybe see some NBA basketball tonight. But that's
You're going to go?
If they would be playing tonight, oh yeah, I would go.
Mm.
Yeah, I think the Warriors are playing when we play in San Francisco, but I haven't even looked at ticket prices. I can't imagine that's a cheap ticket on a Saturday night. Oh man, that can't be a cheap ticket.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, but man, kudos there, Steve Buzzard. Of course, check out him and everyone we have here for NBA coverage. Of course, be sure to hit us those winning screenshots after UFC 280 is over. Love to see those winning screenshots there. And I've got a feeling, man. I think it's at least a 3 underdog optimal lineup today.
Yeah. So when I was making lineups, I ended up making a group with all the underdogs that I liked. And I wanted to get to at least 3 of them for a portion of my lineups. I felt like that was good. I also got to the point where I was putting 5 underdogs in my lineups. I'm telling you, like, this is a very tricky week on any given night, any given day. The travel could really affect people. We've heard other coaches and other people talk about how the travel, fighting at a different time, the travel to Abu Dhabi, just everything. Your body's going through a lot. Cutting the weight, putting the weight back on, rehydration. There are so many X factors that we do not know until the post fight, when things come out and they say, I had a staph infection the whole camp. So, create your lineups accordingly and, allow for some variance when you're creating it. You don't always have to, it doesn't always have to pass the eye test.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw this here, Latifi.
No.
So after his fight was over, he admitted he had staph infection.
Oh, did they cut him?
Well, his contract was up,
Okay.
But the Nevada State Athletic Commission said, yeah, you're suspended. I think it gave him a 6-month suspension.
Well, good. Like you should. Like that's like putting everybody at risk to.
Dude, what if you're his opponent, Olynyk? You're sitting there going, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, but I'll tell you how many fighters do that, man.
I know.
Luke Rockhold is famous for doing that as well, and it's very, very common.
Yeah, especially if you don't clean the gym good too.
Yeah. God damn. Yeah.
That's where it could really be bad. Justin asking Muhammad or Brady, saying it's his tough fight. From a GPP aspect, I'd much rather get Sean Brady. I think the upside's much higher.
Yeah, I think that Brady can actually knock out Bilal Muhammad, like a one left hook, and we could see Muhammad crumple. We also, I don't know if Brady can submit Bilal Muhammad. Muhammad's excellent in the wrestling department and grappling as well. And Brady has a very, very sneaky guillotine, but I don't foresee that being a path to victory for Brady, despite it being, kind of like his go-to in most of his matchups. I think for Brady, his best path would be touching the chin of Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah. Dave goes, Fia wrote takedowns under on PrizePicks.
What's her number at?
Let me see what that number is. I think it was at 1.5 the other day. Let me see what's at.
I don't know if I would do that.
Yeah, so she's at 1.5. I would play the under if I was going to play that.
I don't know. I don't think I would play that. Only reason is because she has attempted a decent amount of takedowns in the past. 6 against Mayra Bueno Silva, who's a talented striker, and you saw Manon Fiorot not like some of the combinations that were coming her way. So she went 2 of 6, 2 of 4 against Jennifer Maia. So that she can get takedowns, and we know that Caitlin Chukagian can be taken down. So I just feel like there's better lines, and I probably wouldn't want to wager on that one.
Richie, really appreciate that super chat. He says, good morning, boys. Feel like Carolhosa may be going a little overlooked. Could it see potentially putting up a high score of the night on a decision win with volume? And who are your guys' favorite dogs? That's not Oliveira or Dillashaw. Good luck. By the way, Carolhosa, I don't know if she's being overlooked from an ownership aspect. I mean, people are getting to her. And I know there's a potential volume, maybe taking Lee and Landsberg down, racking up some points in that manner. It's because of where the ownership is. I'm under the field on her. I don't want to get that highly exposed as we're seeing on ownership.
I'm really surprised that she's coming in highly owned, because I actually thought that she would be glossed over and forgotten about. And, there could be some modifications to the ownership by the time, in 10, 13 minutes from now, we shall see. But I actually do think that Carolhosa is getting overlooked a little bit, despite the the ceiling and the matchup. I mean, you go from facing Sarah McMahon, who is a dominant wrestler, who makes you a little tentative on the feet because you're so worried about getting taken down, and she controls you, and you still are able to kind of turn the tide a little bit in round 3 and put Sarah McMahon at risk of getting finished. So like, as far as, matchups, this is a significantly easier matchup than going up against Sarah McMahon. So recency bias, people could be off Carol Hossa because she dropped the ball. And I think that, she can win and put up a decent score. I just, sometimes decisions still, you think that they would score more, and, not getting over 110 points is a little troublesome. I think she gets 100 points around there. So I accounted for it in some of my lineups, but I will tell you that, like, Peter Yan could actually make some lineups drop, because I don't know if he doesn't get a round 1 finish, I don't know if he's going to pay off that price tag.
In terms of favorite underdogs, not Charles Oliveira or TJ Dillashaw, Beneil Dariush is the one that I keep going to.
Yeah, you say that, huh?
I mean, you're going to look really smart or really dumb, one of the two.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm just no, it's okay.
I look at, we talk about this all the time, of who are the best overall fighters.
Yes.
That are underneath 8,000.
Yes.
And Beneil Dariush is number 4, number 5 lightweight in the world.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. And skill standpoint, he's phenomenal. So, it's like when we have Calvin Kattar at cheap price tags against Giga Chikadze, and it's like, yeah, that does not represent his skill. I will say that my favorite underdog that is not in the main event or co-main event is AJ Dobson, just because I think that's a coin flip fight, and I don't necessarily understand the odds. Don't know why Dobson's plus 171 when Armen Petrosyan is minus 210. I view them very, very similarly, and I think it's the line's wrong on them. I think it should be closer. Still favoring Petrosyan with the line, but like, that seems too wide for me.
By the way, lock is now coming up here at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, so you'll have a little bit of time once this show wraps up.
Nice.
To put in those lineups for over on DraftKings. The lock is 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Of course, we lost the one fight yesterday of Zabara and on Almeida. Weight management issues, the reason that one was canceled.
Yeah, thank God. I mean, well, not thank God, but I didn't enjoy that fight from a DFS standpoint, but I didn't realize how much Almeida I had in my lineups. I had, what I tell you, like 30% or something like that. It just naturally found his way into my lineup. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I got to recrunch everything and, rebuild. So that was a little disappointing. And that's where I started to kind of put all these underdogs under the microscope. And that's where I said, okay, I'm just going to, tinker with my AJ Dobson exposure just a little bit.
Justin Sandwich, Chukagian missing weight yesterday. How much does this mess with a fighter's mind, and do you avoid them in GPPs? It's a case-by-case scenario.
Correct.
I'm just going to use this line. I think, Pete, I've used this line for you. Friends don't let friends put Caitlin Chukagian in their GPPs.
You know what, though, Jay? You're right from like scoring 100 points. But we see how many times that you don't need 100 points to take down a GPP if other underdogs don't come through, But
here's the thing. If you say the target line is 650 to have a shot at taking down a GPP, how can Caitlin Chukagian in a decision win get you to that number?
Yeah, I mean, but realistically, there's 5 fighters beneath her. Murdov, Dobson, Landsberg, O'Malley, and Gordon. I'm crossing Gordon out. I'm not counting him. You have O'Malley, Landsberg, Dobson, Murdov. Only 4 fighters cheaper than her. So if those fighters don't come through, like, it still doesn't matter sometimes. That's why we see fighters in losses that end up making the optimal lineup. But I mean, it all comes down to the other fighters are part of your lineup. So I didn't uncheck Caitlin Chukagian, but I understand why you look at her box scores and it's ugly. It's like, yeah, north of 80 points is almost impossible for this fighter.
Yeah, let's look at it here. Decision win against Amanda Hebos, 57 points.
She looked bad too.
Decision win against Jessica Maia, 72 points.
Yeah.
Vivian Araujo decision win, 82 points.
I don't understand how she wins that fight and then squeaks out a decision win, a split over Amanda Hebos.
She's only scored 100+ points one time, and that was against Antonina Shevchenko.
And that's when she landed her takedowns, 3 of 3 in the takedown department. And that's what really boosted her total, 10 minutes of control time. And Manon on the regional scene, when she's taken down, she looks like she can be controlled, but the flip, the same thing can be said for Katlyn Chookagian. So they better hope that this fight stays on the feet, because the lesser fighter on the back could end up losing a round or two.
By the way, I did see something on my Facebook timeline last night that like 60% of the money in Vegas is on Charles Oliveira in the main event.
Yeah, it's hard to say no to plus money when you're talking about the champ and everything he's done. But
that's one of those ones that I wonder how many people are looking at that under 1.5, 2.5 rounds on that fight.
I mean, the longer the fight goes, the more that it starts to tilt in Islam's favor. If you think it ends really early, I'm still saying it's Charles Oliveira. So if this touches round 4, I would be absolutely shocked. So like the under 2.5 is fine. Under 3.5 is probably juice to the gills, but that's kind of like the time frame of how I foresee the fight going.
So as we kind of start to wrap things up here, one of the things we always like to talk about is what is the fighter that's going to break this slate?
And I think the chat might be on it.
Gamrot?
My Gamrot, bro. Gamrot's a beast. Gamrot's volume. Let's kind of just dive into this real quick. 5 of 16 in his debut against Guram Kutaladze. 2 of 5 against Holtzman. 1 of 2 against Jeremy Stevens, first round submission. 4 of 7 against Diego Ferreira, who's an absolute stud on the mat. And 6 of 21 against Arman Sarukian, who is a very, very accomplished wrestler. So I think that 8,800 against a guy who's willing to trade and get into a wild war with him, Gamrot might be the guy that you need to tinker that exposure and increase it, because I'm not saying that Dariush can't do it, but I just foresee the winner of this one scoring pretty damn well.
Yeah, but that is going to do it for the MMA Live 4 Lock show. Look forward to checking out some great fights here in 30 minutes from now. Of course, coming up next is the NBA Strategy Show, guys. We'll get you ready for tonight's NBA slate. Be sure to check out our sponsor, PrizePicks, and all that great offer they have for you for being a Stokastic.com viewer. So that's going to do it for us. We will talk to you next week on the Strategy Show. Have a good day, everybody.